Gotta fix my beanie. Mark Christopher here. You always gotta look good, man. You always gotta look good on camera. Anyway, what's up? Mark Christopher here with another Hippie Pick interview. Today I'm gonna interview a guy who's got a beard bigger than mine, and it makes me jealous, and a shirt that is amazing. This guy, he's not a pick maker. Let's start off there, but he is a huge fan of guitar picks. He's a huge musician, amazing guy, amazing story. Chatted with him a little bit on camera before we started this interview, and I am excited to grow my beard as long as him. So without further ado, let's get him on board. His name is Jeff Pope. Jeff, my man, are you there?
I'm here, my brother. How are you?
Good, nice shirt, very nice shirt.
Thank you, thank you. Representing, bro, representing.
So I was telling the fine folks that you have a beard larger than the state of Kansas. I'm jealous.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Sweet cup you got there, bro. What's that?
So it's the new Dragon Picks coffee.
Oh, I love the design now. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Chris over at Dragon Picks sent this to me. Bought it. He did a couple months ago. He did a like a limited run to see if we're interested, and I was like, yeah, I'll drink this on my show.
That's right, bro. I'm a big coffee drinker, so any fine cup is a fine one to hold.
So I'll say this. Here's my coffee. Here is my C4. I love C4. I've been drinking Starbucks all morning, but there's not much left, so I'll down this and we'll get started.
You're good. You're good. That'll get you going.
Yeah, man. So where are you from?
I actually live in Hickory, North Carolina. It's about an hour or so north of Charlotte. So we're in the foothills just below. We're somewhere between Charlotte and Boone. I don't know if you're familiar with Boone.
Yeah.
ASU football.
I'm not a football guy. Sorry.
That's all right. So, but yeah, we live in Hickory, North Carolina. So kind of the foothills. We got the beautiful mountains surrounding us. So it's a beautiful place to live, and especially fall of the year when you see all the leaves changing, things like that. But of course, growing up here, you're like, why do people come to North Carolina to see the trees change? I've seen this my entire life.
Yeah. I live in Kentucky, and it's beautiful. And when I was a kid, I wanted to move as far away as possible, and I did. And now there's no place I would rather be. I love Kentucky.
Sure.
Okay, you live in North Carolina, as does Rick from HippiePicks.
Yes.
How close do you live to him?
I live about 30 minutes away from Rick. He lives in Taylorsville, which is where I work at, where our church is at. So I work in Taylorsville, and I actually met Rick originally through a local music store of ours, Larry's Music and Sound. Larry's a good friend of mine, great guy. And so I met Rick there, and then we started following each other on Instagram. He got into making picks. He started sending me some picks, and we just started that relationship, and he's a good friend. So
nice. So he plays at his church, and you are a worship pastor at your church.
I am. I'm a worship pastor. I actually I went to Liberty University for about a year and a half.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And so I went to Liberty University for about a year and a half, got out of college, didn't know what I wanted to do. My dad was actually a plant manager in Lenore, which is close by, about 30 minutes away, at a furniture factory. So I went to work there, got my first paycheck, and that was all it took. And so the reason I worked furniture for so long was because usually your hours were set, you were off on the weekends, and I loved playing music, and I'm like, this is going to fit together if I can make it happen. So I stayed there for about 24 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was there for 24 years as a shipping supervisor. And then I met our pastor at a local church, and he decided to leave the job he was doing to start a church. And so I went with him. I said, well, I can do some music if you can do some preaching. And so we've been doing this for the last 10 years. So. Oh,
wow. So what is the name of the church? We can plug you.
It's Crosspoint Church. We actually have a Hickory address, but we meet in Taylorsville. Chris is originally from Alexander County. I'm from Caldwell County, which is a county over. Okay. And so he just felt led to start a church in this county. And man, we've seen God do some cool stuff, and it's just been awesome. But, you know, to get to play some music, I mean, I played for years, but getting to play music in church too is just kind of a thing. So it's been fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I grew up playing, having my own band, trying to do my own thing, but I found so much enjoyment playing at church now.
Sure.
I never knew existed. And it's like, it's a transcendent experience with your playing that you get to do something very honoring, very worshipful. And I absolutely love it. That's cool that you do as well.
Yeah.
You went to Liberty. Yeah.
I did go to Liberty. I went to Liberty. I graduated in '86 and went to Liberty the next year. So I went to Liberty for about a year and a half. I always say my claim to fame is that I met the guys from DC Talk while I was there.
I was going to ask you that. Yeah.
Yeah. They came. They were actually already there. I met Mike Tate through at the time Liberty had some groups that went and sang at different churches. And so their group came and sang, and Mike Tate was in that group, and met him then. And then whenever I went to Liberty, kind of reconnected. He was kind of doing like a solo deal at the time. So he came home with me and actually sang at our church again, stayed the weekend. It was pretty cool. So that's kind of my claim to fame. Now, he would never remember me, which is cool. It is what it is. But it's my memory, and it's, you know, it's good. And I met all those guys. I was one of those guys that they would at least walk by and say, "Hey, Jeff, how are you?" And so you're like, "Yeah, I knew DC Talk."
Now, in preparation for this interview, I did some research on you, and you auditioned what I've read 32 times to be in DC Talk, but you kept getting turned down.
Exactly. You're absolutely right.
Oh, excuse me. The weather change is messing with my
yeah.
I love DC Talk. Yeah, I grew up listening to DC Talk. That was my first cassette, if you can remember those things.
Oh yeah.
That my Aunt Jennifer got me when I was a kid. And I actually got to go to Kevin Mack's house and record an album at his house.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I spent the weekend. So I was supposed to go to Tennessee to record with a country artist who is from Cincinnati, and she was doing some recording down in Nashville. And she ended up canceling like last minute, like 4 days before. And he had made a post on like Instagram talking about his studio, his recording studio. And I said,
sure.
Like, what are the odds? Like, I'm going to be in the area. Do you mind if I come just chat with you and see if this is something I'd be interested in doing? And he's like, yeah, like, here's my phone number. And I'm like,
wow, that's awesome.
So I called him, and we talked, and I went down to Nashville to his house and sat with him, hung out with him for about 2 hours, and discussed, you know, like costs and what we were planning on, what I was planning on doing, and what my vision was, and what, you know, we wanted to do. And we scheduled it for like sometime in October, I think. I don't remember. This was like 4 or 5 years ago.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and so me and a buddy of mine from my church went out, and we went down there, and he thought it was just going to be me. So he's like, man, I only have one bed prepared. And I was like, in all honesty, like, we brought our tents and our hammocks. We were just going to camp out. And he's like, no, like, I'll pull out like a mattress or something. I was like, no, seriously, we're going to camp out in your backyard. He was like, whatever, dude. And he was like, we set up our hammocks, and we stayed there for 3 days. And then like that night I was like, hey, listen, we're probably saying goodbye now because tomorrow morning we're leaving at like 4 a.m. We're going to go hiking. And he's like, you guys are nuts. But I got to record an album. Dwayne Laring we played in Audio Adrenaline, but now he's with Lauren Daigle as the guitarist. He did the mixing and mastering of the album. It was really cool.
Oh, that's awesome, dude. That's fantastic.
It was really cool. And then I never did anything with the album. I mean, it's online. You can type in this little slogan. You'll find it there. But yeah, absolutely.
That's cool.
Yeah, okay, so enough about me. Let's talk more about you. You seem like you've been playing guitar your whole life.
I have been playing probably since I was around 10 or so,
Wow.
I would suspect. My very first guitar, you'll find this funny, years ago, I don't know if you remember this, years ago, you used to get the Sears catalog. And you'd search, that's how there was no internet. You searched for your Christmas gifts through the Sears catalog or the J.C. Penney catalog. And my very first guitar came from the Sears catalog. My parents bought me my very first acoustic guitar, and later on, my very first electric guitar with an amplifier, both came from the Sears catalog.
Nice. What kind of guitar was it?
It was just like a no-name brand little guitar. I had the little acoustic, had it for a long time. And then what's funny is my electric, it was kind of the no-name brand too, but I played it even into high school. I've got an old picture in our yearbook. I was playing that guitar. We used to do like a couple of songs that would be like maybe we do a Bee Gees song or maybe a Beatles song or something like that. And so they would, our choral director would get some musicians to play. So I actually got the chance to play my Sears guitar in high school.
Nice, nice. So you seem like you're an old rock and roll style guy. Is that correct?
I am. It's funny. Growing up, my mother sang a lot. She always exposed us to a lot of music. So she had all kinds of albums. I remember listening to, I don't know if you ever know, Johnny Horton, things like that. 1814, we took a little trip, that kind of thing.
Yeah. That song.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so I used to listen to stuff like that. We had all kinds of LPs that we used to listen to. For all your young viewers, big record. Of course, vinyls have made a comeback, but they cost way more than they did when they were originally made.
Yes, sir.
But we listened to a lot of music growing up, and so I really got into music. It became my thing, which is kind of funny because nobody in my family on either side, not even my brother, nobody plays a musical instrument. Like nobody. Now my grandmother's aunt, when she was alive, she played piano. But other than that, nobody. But I took an interest in guitar. It just what I really, really liked. And so I started out. I listened to all kinds of music growing up. Kind of honed in on to more of a. In my early high school years, my brother listened a lot to like Chicago, REO Speedwagon, those kind of bands. So I really liked the musical aspect of it. I was a big musical kind of guy. I loved melodies. I loved that kind of thing. And then got more into like Van Halen, things like that. Then when I was in high school, a friend of mine who was a Christian rock buff gave me my first Petra More Power to You album. And that was the ticket for me because then I could delve the two together. I was already, I grew up in church, believer, that kind of thing. And so then it was like, hey, I can play the music I love and sing about the thing I love and do the two together. And so yeah. It started there. And man, I've loved music, loved musicianship, but I'm a big person as far as like, I like melody. I like, and it's anywhere from like a Frank Sinatra to, some heavy metal stuff, so.
Petra was the first concert I've ever went to in my entire life.
Oh, wow. My favorite was that I went to Carowinds, which is not down in Charlotte. It's a big amusement park, but they used to have Christian Music Day. So they would have bands. So I got to see Petra and Whiteheart and a couple other bands together at one time. It was massive. It was awesome.
Yeah.
So
dude,
I loved all that.
I can sit and talk to you about old school Christian music for days. Days.
Yeah, man.
So now you play for your church.
I do. I played in a band when I got out of college, just started doing the work thing. And then the same friend who had turned me on to Petra had he worked with a local band, which is another kind of, I don't know if you've ever heard of Elliott Guitars. Elliott, he sells a lot of guitars to like some of the guys from Elevation, things like that, Elevation Worship.
Okay.
But Andy played in a band, and he's a local luthier now making guitars. But that friend of mine introduced me to a bass player for the band I ended up joining. They were looking for a lead singer, and so I joined them probably in my early 20s. we played together for about 7 years or so. Actually made an album. I brought one with me because we put all our money into this. This was our money, but we didn't make this till about probably towards the end of our time together. This was probably the best my voice had sounded because I'd been singing for about 6 or 7 years. So we made this in '96, Final Destiny, North of Hell. Somebody actually put this, we've never put it online, but some guy, I happened to cross it online. Some guy had actually put the songs online for me. So I thought that was pretty cool.
So
it's on YouTube. So
where can people buy it?
I don't think you still can, but my ultimate claim to fame was that at a pawn shop nearby years ago, I found one in the pawn shop, and I realized that he probably had to be one of my family members who took and pawned it off.
Yeah, I have, anytime I'm at like a thrift store, and I love pawn shops, Goodwills, like secondhand used stores. Like I always try and keep an eye out for my old band's T-shirts and CDs, just on the off chance. You know?
That's right, absolutely.
That hasn't happened to me yet, but I'm super happy it happened to you. That's
that's when you know you've made it. It's when you've made it to the pawn shop, you've made it.
I'm so cool.
That's right.
What type of guitar do you play now? Do you still play that old Sears?
I've got. Here's the thing. This is what happened to me was that I fell in love with music, but I fell in love with guitars. Mm-hmm. And so through the years, I have owned almost one of everything, just because I was big on trading. I thought it was kind of funny that, you talk about changing strings. It used to be I just changed guitars. I never put on new strings. I just take them and trade them off and get another guitar. But I've worked my way up to my main acoustic now that I play is a Taylor 314 CE, and fantastic guitar. I love the Taylor stuff. I've got a Gibson Les Paul, which is not actually a Gibson Les Paul. I bought it from a guy that actually I bought it from a friend of mine that plays in the worship band, but he had gotten it from a gentleman who had passed away. But that guy had played. It's similar to a 59 Les Paul, but it's not actually a Les Paul. So, but they put all the stickers on it and stuff and made it look that way. But it's fantastic guitar. I've got a Reverend guitar that I play. I like the Reverend, and I just recently picked up the Paul Reed Smith that I got, the 245 SE. I was playing that one the other night, and I've got a G&L S500. So it's just a plethora of different guitars, but all those have been, I'm purchasing this one, I'm getting that one. But I mean, through the years, like my very first really nice guitar was like an Ibanez Rg570. My dad helped me buy it. And so I got that from a local store. My funny story about that is that was the first time I'd ever owned a guitar with a double lock and tremolo with the Floyd Rose on it.
I hate that guitar.
So I was like, this is so cool. And so for the entire band time, I always bought double lock and tremolos. And I was like, man, this is awesome. First time I went to change strings, I just cut all the strings at once and the bridge fell down. And I was like, what do I do? So I took it to the music store, and the guy there, he said, don't ever cut all the strings at one time.
Yeah. I bought one Floyd Rose guitar, and I loved the guitar, but I hated the Floyd Rose setup. It just, I down tune, I tuning, drop tuning, different styles and stuff, and it's like, man, I have to down here and then in the middle. I don't like it. So I sold it.
It takes forever to get the strings stretched out to where then you're okay, and then you're not tuning here and then tuning here and then tuning here, and then basically I just got lazy, and I'm like, if I could just pull the string through and be done, I'll be done.
That's so much easier for me.
Yeah, and usually I've noticed that the anything that has a floating tremolo, especially in worship music, you use a lot of capos, and those two just don't go together well at all.
No, they don't. They don't. So I'm assuming that, I mean, you're well versed in music. You've got your own album. You auditioned for DC Talk. You are a worship pastor. You play, probably the cheapest 50-cent guitar pick you can find. Is that true?
If I can find them, that's exactly what I do. No, actually, I've gotten more into, well, what happened was through the years, I started off with like the old Fenders, like everybody did. You go buy the Fenders because you could buy bulk, you could buy them cheap, those type of things. And so it never really occurred to me, what a lot of that tonality has to do. And so I spent a lot of time buying just inexpensive guitar picks through the years. And then I got to where I was buying more. I got into like the Dunlops. The Dunlops were good. For a while, I was using these Star picks. But I started off with really thin picks and then moved on up to a little bit heavier. The last grouping of picks I bought were the Dunlop. These are really good picks. But what happened was I had met Rick. And Rick was like, well, I'm starting to make some picks and you want to try some and all that. And so I bought some picks from Rick and he would send me some prototypes. And so we went through some different picks and different styles. Like this was a prototype he had just recently sent me. And then the edging on it, the way that the edges are beveled. And then I ended up happening across your stuff and you hooking me up with with my shirt, my cool glasses, all my HippiePicks stuff, which I love the logo design, dude. That is my favorite. And the top hat you were wearing for your big event thing was awesome. So I loved that.
So that's sort of so first of all, this guy is me with long hair. I don't know if I'll probably post up like some old photos of me with long hair. But, the Be a Hippie thing came because, well, it kind of like involves Christ. Because I felt like when I got back into church, it was more or less, as I studied who Jesus was, I was like, this dude is like a hippie,
Oh yeah.
And the way he lived his life and gave and shared and did for others, ultimately sacrificing himself for our salvation. I was like, this dude is so cool. And,
sure.
And I would make posts on Facebook and I'd be like, be yourself, be love, be the light, be the example, be a hippie, and I kept like all these things. And people started saying, yeah, man, like be a hippie. Isn't that what you always say? And I'm like, no, what?
Yeah.
But it was because like I was just always like encouraging people to be who you are, because I struggled for a long time with my own identity of who I was.
Sure.
But people forgot, be yourself, be unique, be different, be the light. People only latched on to be a hippie. So I was like, let's roll with it. And I hired a lady. Her name is Sheila. She's phenomenal. She did the logoing. And my manager at the time, like we set up a meeting, and several meetings later, she said, I got 4 options for you, and I already know which one you're going to choose. And I was sold on the first one. And she was like, let's keep going. And by the time we got to the end, it was like, boom. And I was like, that one, and the time, sure. The whole suit, the whole getup is just part of the.
Yeah. Oh, I love it, man. It's awesome. I don't know if you remember. Do you remember DeGarmo and Key? You need to go check out DeGarmo and Key and listen to a song called "Radical." That reminded me of the hippie thing. So,
like old what's his name? Oh shoot! It's right. Like I don't want. It's Lee Greenwood is not the guy. I wish we'd all been ready. Who wrote that?
Oh, shoot! I don't remember.
Dang it! Yeah, I can't. It's like that guy was like a radical dude as well. Where he's you play rock and roll, you can look like a hippie, you can be a hippie.
Sure.
It's all for Jesus, and I love that so much.
Yeah. Much. It wasn't Norman, was it?
Not Bebo Norman. No. Norman. It's with an N though, with an N or a K. I wanted to say Keith.
I can't remember. Because all I can think of right now is Greg Norman, the golfer.
Larry Norman.
Larry. That's it.
Thank you, Google.
Yeah.
So when it comes to picks, what have you learned since you started buying pick makers picks?
Well, what happened was, the anybody can buy, you can buy these a dime a dozen in the store. But what happens is that you can connect with, like, this is one of my favorites that Rick makes, the Hornet. It's a good design. I'm not a small pick guy. It just drives me insane. Like Jazz 3s, that size are just not for me. I do like your picks, got a good feel to it. It's a good thick pick. I used to use a lot of really thin picks, but you could tell the tonality difference. Also, like, the beveling on the edges, it really creates, and I'll just demonstrate this right quick. So you've got, it's got a really good pronounced sound, but if you went to like a really thin pick, or even something thinner than that, it's about projection. And then even the beveled edges, if you get into a thicker pick, you've got, compared to like a little bit thinner, or like I love the feel of these HippiePicks, man. They've got it going on. This is cool. But it's got, what it does, and what I've noticed is that a lot of these picks end up, depending on the beveled edges, depending on the thickness, depending on what it's made out of, actually does affect your tone. And I never thought about that before. That never crossed my mind. And there's a reason that, like, guys like Brian May have always used a coin, or even Billy Gibbons uses like a peso or something. They have it creates a certain tonality that they like. And so, despite, I mentioned I love gear, not only loving gear, but like every guitar player, people wouldn't know this unless they were a guitar player, we chase tone. We have lived our lives chasing tone. And so you end up, without realizing it, didn't realize that the picks have as much to do with your, it's always, well, what kind of strings do you use? What kind of, gear are you using? What kind of guitar are you playing? And then you're like, well, I'll just pick up any old pick. But that's like saying, I'll just pick up any old thing, and it don't really matter. It's going to affect the tonality just like anything else. Yeah. So I do like the thicker picks. I like the beveled edges. This is great because I don't drop these, which you start getting the little sweaty finger thing going on. You want some picks that you can actually hang on to. It's got something. This has actually become one of my favorites that Rick made for me, because it's got this honey and it's got this drop, and so I can hang on to that. I don't lose those things after playing for X amount of time, because what happens is, even in playing, you begin to grip tighter, you begin to squeeze tighter, and then it's like, I'm going to lose this pick if I'm not careful. So
I will say this, when I started making the white arrowheads, and unfortunately I can't disclose the material that I use. It's officially now it's a trade secret, which is really cool.
That's awesome.
But like when I started making them, I didn't realize the impact that was going to have. And everybody has said, dude, for whatever reason, the grip is so insane.
It is.
There's no slip to it whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's like, cool. Like, that was a byproduct. I wasn't seeking that out to be like, this material, there's no slip. I didn't know that going in, but when I started making them, it's like, dude, you won't drop that no matter how much you sweat.
Oh yeah. And that makes a world of difference, and like I say, I'm a larger pick guy, so these picks are fantastic size for me. And so it's got a good, and I'm bad to pull down close to where I play on the edge, but I just want a lot of pick in my hand. So that way I know I'm not losing that.
When I was younger, I went to a guitar clinic with Michelangelo Badio.
Yeah.
And he threw out a pick while he was playing, and I caught it, and it was thick. And that was super weird to me, and I'd seen thick picks before, but never got into it. And like during like a Q&A portion of the clinic, I said, hey man, you threw that pick, I caught it, and it was thick.
Yeah.
How, like, is there a reason why you prefer thick picks? And he said, kid, let me ask you this. Like, do you play a thin pick? And I said, yes, sir. And he said, thin picks are sloppy because there's no control, right? They just kind of go like that because they're made to bend. He said, but a thick pick won't bend. And it goes, and it attacks exactly what you want. He said, it's harder. And as you've said, buddy, like it's not easy to play with a thicker pick, but overcome that hurdle and you will be in control of everything you're doing and you won't be sloppy while you're doing it.
Sure.
And so like for probably 2 years after that, I tried really hard to learn, because I mean, there's a big difference between, you know, shredding on a thin pick and shredding with a thick pick. You're like,
yeah.
But he was right. And that was like part of my first endeavor into understanding more about picks.
Yeah.
You know? And I had no clue that there were boutique pick make. And I was a kid, you know, at the time.
Yeah.
But it made more sense after he explained it. And I went, yeah, okay. I will commit to doing the work. And I became a better musician as a byproduct of just using a thicker pick.
Sure. Yeah. And there's some parts of that the thicker picks create a little bit less hand fatigue, so that you're not having to play as hard, as much. You're able to do more for less, and so it helps with that.
I don't know if you know Lawrence Cebentre. Either way.
I don't know. I may have seen him before.
Yeah, he was on a prior HippiePicks interview, and that was something that he is really into, is learning and studying the ergonomics of the pick. And you go, nah. He goes, dude, it affects your entire body. The way you hold the pick, and the way you move it forces your whole hand and arm to act a certain way, which all comes from the shoulder, and you have a guitar strapped on you. It affects your whole body. He said by using like somebody like Zwart plectrums, like with a thicker pick, you don't have to hold it as tight. I don't know if I'm on me or I, explain it.
Oh yeah.
It loosens up your hand, which in turn, there's no tension here, and it goes all the way up, and it's a freer motion.
Yeah. I agree. And the thing about it is it getting over that battle, like you were saying, is a mental thing, because you're like, this pick is so thick, I'm not going to be able to play with this at all. This is going to be weird. And it's, and so you've got to retrain your mind. But, even watching how certain people hold their hands or how they play or things like that. Some people use an open hand. Some people use a closed hand. Some people use their middle finger and their thumb, things like that. I think all of that affects the way that people play and how they play. So, but absolutely on the thickness of picks makes a world of difference. And that's something I never thought about. I just bought what I could find. Everybody's buying, well, this is what they sell in the store. And even at that, you have such a plethora of picks to be able to choose from. And, I worked at Larry's a little bit through the summer and things like that on Saturdays, just because I love selling guitars. And people would always, especially new people, would come in and be like, well, what kind of pick should I buy? And I'm like, well, that's a world of a different problem you have right there.
So I bought have you ever heard of V-Picks?
Yes.
This is my first endeavor into boutique. Nice. This is my first endeavor into boutique guitar picks, and I found one, and it was like that thick.
Yeah.
It was $15, and I was like, I'm not going to spend $15 on this pick. And the guy at the music store was like, why not? I was like, because one, it's going to be impossible to play. And he said, well, I tell you what, buddy, buy it, and if you don't like it, bring it back. I was like, okay. So I bought it, and then not even a week later, I went and bought the rest of what they had out of the store. I was like, this is different. This is way different than anything I've ever experienced before. And there's a song that we play in church called I Surrender.
Yeah.
And dude, it's super simple, You know, it's not a lot of shredding.
Yeah.
But with that pick, and I only use that pick on that song, and it's like, I mean, so fast. And people say, man, like I play guitar, but how do you do that? And I say, here's the pick. And they go, no, I can't. And I go, I swear I can't do this with any other watch. And I'll do it with that pick, and then I'll pick up even like one of mine. Like I'm not against saying that I can't do that with my pick. I can't.
Sure.
And it's like the way and it just rolls off the pit. It rolls off the string.
Sure.
It gives you so much speed. And dude, I mean, it's like I can sit there and do that all day. Like, and it's not, and it takes no effort. And people are no, I'm not going to spend $20 on a pick. And I go, then you'll never be able to play that. You can play the song, and I can show you the notes, but you're not going to be able to do it that way. And there's no delay. There's no crazy multi-effects sounding. It's just like I got the reverb, got a little distortion, but it's low. You know what I mean? It's low because it's an ominous song and it builds. But it's like, dude, like 90% of that song is me shredding with a pick, and people are blown away. And it's like the pick, like picks really have a key important role in the musician.
Yeah, they do. Oh yeah. Absolutely. And that was something I never realized or ever paid attention to. That was not even on my radar. You know, you're buying the right strings, you're buying the right pickups, you're buying the right, and I mean, every part of that is a musical journey for any musician, especially guitar players. You're going to work through what's your favorite pickups, what's your favorite guitars, what's your favorite necks, what's your favorite, body, what's your favorite. And picks are as much a part of that as anything else. It's kind of like I'm going to buy 4 brand new tires and put them on my car, but I'm going to leave the lug nuts off. Now, how long is that mother going to run before you're like, okay, this fell apart quickly?
Yeah.
You could consider your picks to be the lug nuts of your tires that's holding that whole thing together. Because you can buy the nicest tires you want, and you can buy the nicest wheels you want, but if you don't bolt those things on, you're in trouble. And I think, the way that you're picked, and see, a big thing for me that has become is I'm not a finger picker, never have been. It's not something I can do.
I love
not something but I love to play with just my fingers. And so one of the things, and Rick had made me a couple that were a more rounded edge type pick, to where I was getting more tonality that sounded like finger picking that was not finger picking. And I'm like, this is what I want, especially for acoustic guitar. If you do a lot of strumming, things like that, depending on the beveled edge, you can get more of a plinky sound than you can a full sound. And so a lot of that makes a world of difference, and you just have to work through those picks and see which one works best, which creates the tone that you want.
Something I want to pause real quick and chime into the viewers is, don't be afraid to try a new pick. Even if you don't like it, that's okay. Like I said, the V pick, I love V picks. I have so many different V picks, but the one pick I only use on one song.
Sure.
And if we were playing like Amazing Grace, it would sound horrible. And not that, that's a bad pick, but it has its purpose and it has its function. And I think there's a lot of times as like a solid musician, a session player, a touring artist, they get what I'm saying and you get it as well. But it's like, okay, for this song, I like this pick. For this song, I like this pick. And you don't have to play every single song with every pick, but take that time to invest in what the pick can and can't do, what you like and what you don't like about it, and be willing to try it. And if you don't like it, try something else. Don't just go, well, I'm just going to go back to Guitar Center and buy that one that I pocket them all because they're all free.
Oh, sure. Yeah, and if you've ever seen on my Instagram, like if I take a picture from Sunday morning, you'll see a grouping of picks that are laying on my keyboard or something. I'm like, out of these, I'm picking things up to decide what to play. And see, it affects it too. Like supposedly you're playing a song where you want a little bit quieter picking motion. sometimes the heavier picks create more noise than you want it to create. So you have to pick up a different little pick, something maybe with a bit rounder edge, so that you're playing a part that doesn't overwhelm the song or overwhelm what you're trying to do. And some of that can be controlled in your playing itself, but eventually that whatever touching against your string, is going to create that noise anyway. So you've got to think about that. I agree with you. Go through, try things out. If you got to sit at the music store and try them all, if you got to go and at least buy one of everybody's pick and say, hey, I love these things. This works great for me. Maybe this doesn't work as good, but it works great for this. And like you say, just across the board, picking picks that are good for songs.
And something that I feel like you can probably agree with this. Let's say somebody's watching this and they've never heard of HippiePicks and they want to buy one, and they buy it and they're like, I love it, but here's one thing I don't like about it. Don't be shy. Tell Rick, you tell me, you tell any of the pick makers and say, hey, because I kind of like it more like this. We'll make it for you.
Sure.
When I bought picks from Arcanum Plectra, I didn't know that he offered 3 different options on beveling, sanding, and polish finish.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, what do all these mean? And I'm a pick maker. And
sure.
Well, if you want this, I'll do this. If you want this, I'll do this. So I got to pick.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and like one, man, it's amazing. The other one, I go, I wish I would have done the other thing, but still, like, that's okay. It's not a bad pick.
Sure. Sure.
Like I said, for certain songs, it's an amazing pick. For other songs, I would maybe like it like this. The feel is great. It's comfortable. It doesn't drop. It's perfect size. But like, he offers that. If you as the viewer are watching this and go, man, I bought some of Chris's picks from Dragon Picks and I'm not a big fan of this part, tell him. He will make it the way you want. Like, I know, like with Lawrence over at Plumstone, like Lawrence offers options where it's like, how do you want this? How do you want that? And it's like, here's what I'm doing. And it may not work. You may not like it even after you pick it. That's okay too.
Sure. Absolutely. The thing about it too is that, and this is what I like, this is what I've liked with you, with Rick, is being able to get in touch with you guys. You buy generic brand picks, you're never going to be able to talk to somebody, send them an email and be like, hey, this is what I'm looking for. What would you suggest? As a pick maker, hey, this is the tones I've found. This is what works best. Hey, this is what I can design for you, just like what you said. And I like that. I like the personality of being able to talk to people about what they're doing, what they're making, because in all honesty, that's as personal a thing as anything else. These are my picks. Now, I'm not you may not, this is like for me, so I'm going to be like, okay, this is how I want this. This is how I want this to play. And maybe it works exactly the way you want it to. But if not, I can say, hey, Mark, this, could you change this? Could you do this? What can you do for me and this? And, that's a great thing. That's one of the big things I like, and the unfortunate, growing up for me, dude, I lived at the music store. From the time I was a kid, there was a music store in town. We were there, through high school. I'd drive to the local music store. My buddy Larry, who owns a music store, because that's where I met all my friends. That's where I met one of my closest friends who plays guitar in the worship band. I met him at a local music store when I was 19, and we've been friends. I'm 52 now, so we've been friends this long and not killed each other yet. But I used to go and listen to his band rehearsals, and we just became really close friends. So for me, that's my hangout spot. That's my place where I love to meet other people, other musicians. And so you get that. The thing about it is that's local people. That's people that you could go and say, hey, man, I'm looking for this guitar. Or, hey, man, I'm looking for that. Or what do you think would be good for this? And it's the same way with you guys, pick makers, being able to, hey, hey, this is my personal pick. I'd like this. Can you make it this way, or can we do this? And so I think it's fantastic, dude.
I do tend to think, this is a business. I'm not going to lie. We're all in it to make it. We enjoy what we do, but at the end of the day, we're trying to sell product. And I think the thing that is different between us and somebody that you can't contact, like, and I love Ernie ball picks. Those are some of my favorite picks to play on. I love the Dunlop picks. There are picks I don't like and I don't want to name because I don't want to name drop anybody. But like, you can't reach out to Jimmy Dunlop and say, hey, got a question, right? But at the end of the day, you can reach out to me. You can reach out to Rick, Lawrence from Plumstone, Chris from Dragon Picks. You can reach out to those guys, and we want your business. We want to make a product that you're happy with. And if you're not, let us know, because we want to make it better so that you like what we deliver. Like,
oh yeah,
we're not making this for ourselves. Sure. We wouldn't be having this conversation. There would be no Instagram. There would be no online websites, nothing. This is for people who play guitars. And and if you like it, sweet. I won't change it. But if you want me to change one thing, I can for you. And I'll just make it. This guy always likes when I do this. Here, there you go. Because I want you to come back. I want you to like my picks.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and the thing about it too is that it's kind of the old musician things where working musicians understand other working musicians. What happens is that a lot of these companies started out that way, and I'm not faulting them for that. But once a company grows so big, you lose that personal connection with the local people, especially the guys that are buying your stuff. So now you have 10,000 picks being made on a machine that's running through as hard as it can go, or you've got one guy that's kind of putting his heart and soul into what he's doing. And I would never fault a company for growing. I mean, if you guys ever like where you could sell picks and just, that's fantastic. But what has always bothered me about the music industry, what bothers me, especially about guitars and amps, is that you begin to lose that personal touch, especially for the people that are your people. Everybody, you'll find guitar players a dime a dozen, but there's a group that are your people. And those people are the people who love guitar, love instruments, love playing. It's not just about, well, I just decided I wanted to learn guitar. Nothing wrong with that. But there are those of us who have lived guitar for the majority of our life. And to me, that's the people, those are my people. And that's what makes it good for me, is to have guys like you who have started these businesses, who are doing these things. And I'm like, hey, I know this guy and he made this for me and it's super cool. And I take as much pride in those things as you guys do. I'm like, hey, I'll take real pride in this shirt, dude, because this is like the awesomest shirt. But I mean, the picks are fantastic. I love to play them. I don't just do it as a gimmick or anything like that. And the reason I do a lot of playing, you'll see it on my Instagram. I try to, because I want to give you guys props. I want people to find you guys and be like, hey, I like this pick too. I want to promote your business. I'm not a pick maker, but I'm a business promoter. So I'm going to try to promote you guys as much as possible. So
I appreciate that, man. I do. And it means a lot to me. And I think I 100% agree with you. When people get big, it's harder to contact them and it's harder to have that interaction. But one thing that I've done since I've started making picks, and I've done this before I started making picks, but now like this is sort of like what I want to do, where it's like people that I grew up listening to or had an impact on me in my musicianship, playing, making me want to play, buying all their albums. Now I'm in a position where it's like, hey, I make a guitar pick and you inspired me so much when I was like 10. Here, I want to be able to give back to somebody who inspired me.
Well, sure.
I think that's really cool because it is an opportunity that I wouldn't otherwise get to have. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I agree.
Listen, we are running out of time on my watch that has no Not the, my wife bought this for me Christmas last year, and I also got a yo-yo Christmas last year. And on Christmas Day, I shattered the glass.
Oh, wow.
So my brother's like, man, I know a guy. He'll put it back on. I went through 3 different glasses on the box, and then one day the hands fell off. So this is just I
like it, though.
An aesthetic, you know?
Yeah. Well, that means you're living by your own time, bro.
That's right. That's right. Jeff, it's very awesome to talk to you today. Thank you so much.
Thanks, brother. Man, thank you for the opportunity, dude. I appreciate it. Making great picks. Keep at it, bro.
Thank you, man. Well, you have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon, okay?
All right, man. See you, bro.
I'll see you later. I feel like I was watching the time, and I felt like we could have this interview for hours on end. I just love chatting with Jeff. This is the first time I ever got to chat with him, but he was really cool to get to interact and hear, like, somebody who's been doing this their whole life and how much enjoyment and fulfillment they still find out of finding new things, whether that be a new guitar maker, whether that be another pick maker. It's irrelevant. I'm just excited to talk to people who love and enjoy what we do. I love what I do. John Coleman from John Coleman's Classic Barbershop loves what I do, as well as Landrum Investments. Listen, I love you guys. I hope you have a great day. And as always, good job, be a hippie. Paul.